And so in order for me to properly place these area connectors, I need to go around the map in a spiral-like motion and find the furthest points that... Hello everybody, and welcome back to Soulveyor Devlog number 6. Soulveyor is my top-down multiplayer deck-building RPG, which you should really consider wishlisting on Steam. I mean, just look at the Steam page. It could actually, the Steam page could be improved drastically, but it's up there. Where's the Discord? And there's even a Discord. Oh my gosh, look at this. Awesome. So this week, I've been working on sculpting the procedural terrain within Soulveyor. So yes, a couple of weeks ago, I added my depth system for the world so that I can create multiple layers within the procedural generation. But this week, I've been working on actually designing what goes on those layers. Because you see, it's not just random noise. I don't just flip a coin for each tile and decide whether or not I'm going to be placing ground there. I need to very carefully make sure the terrain is completely visible and navigable for the players. And most importantly, it has to look good at the same time. So what do I mean by terrain sculpting? Well, in most games that implement some form of procedural generation, you have to basically pick a pattern on how you want to design your world. Games like Minecraft, for example, use Perlin noise, where they sample Perlin noise and they generate the terrain off of that. I'm not too sure what Terraria uses. But the point is, you can do whatever you want. You can implement any crazy algorithm to determine where to place tiles. As long as it looks good, that's all that matters. And it's very important that you control this noise so that you can actually make the areas look like some natural terrain. You see, this is what my terrain generation previously looked like in Soulveyor. And this build is from months ago, so much has changed since then. But the point is, this is what I was previously doing. As you can see, the area was really flat. There was no depth in this world at all. Even the water tiles are pretty scuffed. But what I did here was, do you see these roof tiles, these grassy roof tiles? These represented missing tiles. So no tiles were here. And if you see I walk to the left, I get stopped. I can't go past here because this is supposed to represent a wall, like a barrier. The same thing along the edges here. This is supposed to represent the border of the world. And for my area connectors, as you can see, I'm in this location right here. So that means that this particular area has both a north and a west connector. The connectors are represented by these paths that I generate. But the problem with this is sometimes some paths can be a variable amount of length. So it's not always, what is this, 6 units tall? Some paths could be like 2 or 3 units tall. And sometimes in some random areas, it's pretty difficult to tell where these paths are located if the border of the map is also kind of like carved like this. So that's something that I wanted to address with this new update. And again, this worked fine when the game was only 2D. But now that the game is 3D and so much has changed, this won't really work as well. And the thing with these forest roof tiles is, yes, while it looks good, it doesn't really fit too well, and it feels like pretty flat, I guess, from a top-down perspective. Like, it just feels a little too flat. I like the decals, I like the texture and patterns. I might use this for something else, but I'm doing away with this and replacing this with my new walls. So in order to generate this terrain, I'm actually using a cellular automata based algorithm with some smoothing implemented on top of that. And I still really like that design because this creates really good looking 2D areas. So I still want to keep that algorithm that I can use to generate at least a base level for the area. But I'm just going to be stacking additional layers on top of that. So let's hop back into what the current version of the game looks like. Yikes. Well, okay, a couple things. So yes, this is a work in progress. What the hell? Swiss cheese looking. Okay, yeah, maybe I could explain this better if I drew it. Okay, so as you, oh my god, my lighting is all sorts of messed up today. Okay, you can clearly read this, right? So, first, I start with that, oh, it's probably flipped. I start with a cellular automata based base. So, pretend you draw a little circle, okay, so this is the map here. Looks like a little cookie with another cookie in the middle. Okay, boom, that's step 1. Second part, okay, we move to the second stage. So we move one layer up on the procedural generation and we fill in all those empty tiles below with a tile above it. Now the whole map area is filled up. And for the remaining areas, we basically just rinse and repeat, building stacking layers on top of each other for however high the area is. And so if you think about it, we're basically designing our layers in the shape of a pyramid. The fact that each layer gets progressively smaller the higher and higher up we go. It's very important that it's in the shape of a pyramid rather than an inverted pyramid, because if we kept making the layers bigger and bigger and bigger, the layer on top would just end up blocking everything below it due to the way my camera is set up. So it's very important that I either make the walls go either straight up or have them gradually taper off as you climb the map, in order to make sure that the entire area is always visible. And so after we've sculpted all the layers, I then need to go through each layer and place these stair tiles right here. These are just wooden stairs, but I could have like a dirt or grass or stony kind of stairs. But the point is that I need to go around the map and make all layers accessible to the players or AI or NPCs. And I need to make sure that everybody can climb up each layer, because what would be the point of having layers if you couldn't climb up them? So I just need to make sure that all layers are accessible by everything. Okay, this looks really scuffed because it's not working properly right now. I changed a couple things, but don't worry. Do you remember those connectors I was just showing you in the older build of Soulveyor? I decided to do away with those old path connectors that I used for areas for multiple reasons, but mostly because they just didn't look or feel that good or work with my new systems. So I decided to replace those connectors with something like this. This is just a simple teleport pad. And I can take this teleport pad and I can rotate it in whatever direction I need to, depending on if it's a north, east, south, or west connector. And this looks really messy here, but a player, when they're walking in this area, once they touch one of these teleporter pads, they'll get teleported to the next area. Okay, I actually did not expect that to work, but it did. Okay, you know, these look, it looks kind of, it's not working properly. It's not working properly at all, but something about it looks kind of cool, but this is not intended. I don't know what, I don't know what this is. I really don't know. I actually had no clue why this happened. I actually have no clue why it looks like this. It should not be looking like this. But yeah, so it'll look like something like this. In each of the 4 cardinal directions, you'll have these teleport pads. So the player will walk on this, and the second they touch this, it'll teleport them and send them to the next area, and it'll spawn them on this little circle right here in front of it, a little bit in front. You see, I can't just spawn the player on the same teleport pad, because if I drop them off on this pad, they're gonna hit the collider and send them back to the previous area, which is gonna hit the collider and send them back to the next area, which is gonna, so that's why I just needed to add a little bit of offset. I need to spawn them a little bit in front of the area. And it's important to get the direction that the player's walking to. For example, if the player touches a north connector, like let's say they're walking up here and they hit this connector, they're going to spawn on the southern connector of the next area. So they're going to spawn here, but I need to make sure to place them just a teensy bit in front. So yeah, I might decide to add some particle effects or maybe some like lighting that happens when the player touches the connector, and I might change the art a little bit, but these are just meant to be some simple teleporter pads to move the player from area to area. And so in order for me to properly place these area connectors, I need to go around the map in a spiral-like motion and find the furthest points that are in each direction from the center. And this is just to make sure that the connectors always get placed along the furthest edge of the map, so it feels like the player has to walk all the way to the edge until they get sent to the next map. And so after I've finished placing all the stairs and area connectors throughout the world, I need to go and add dirt and water throughout these areas. And as you can see right here, I have all these really cool variables that I've added that allow me to customize all sorts of things. So right over here, for example, dirt percent, this is the percentage of the area that's filled with dirt. And so for example, I could have, if this were the spawn data for a forest biome, maybe the forest biome should be filled with 25% dirt or 10% water. So this is really nice because I could wake up tomorrow morning and decide I want to add a new biome to the game and mess around with these settings and create an entirely new biome. Oh look, it's sunset. And so dirt is really simple. I'm just using basically what's called a random walk algorithm that picks a random tile, places dirt, and just starts randomly walking in each direction, placing a dirt tile, a dirt tile, a dirt tile. And it's kind of messy and noisy, but for dirt, it's fine. But for water, I can't just do that because water, that would look a little too messy. So what I think I'm going to do for water is still use that random walk algorithm that I have for the dirt, but maybe add some smoothing to it because I want to kind of make it in the shape of like ponds and rivers kind of. Oh, I could add a waterfall too, but you get the point. And another thing to mention is that I have to make sure that the dirt in the water or whatever other tiles I decide to add gets placed within the center of the area. So if this were like one big flat area, I need to place it in the center because if I put it near the edges, it's not always going to tile properly with the edges and it might look a little weird. So I just need to make sure that the dirt and water aren't directly touching these edges. And so on last week's stream, which I stream every single Saturday on Twitch, at 9 a.m. I was thinking, okay, what happens after I'm finished with this terrain sculpting system? Well, I wanted to add some more diversity in the world, not just with tiles, but with the actual objects. Because all that I have right now in the game is just pebbles, twigs, and trees. So I wanted to add some more objects to scatter throughout the world. And so I thought I'd work on a couple new assets. I wanted to make some mushrooms, some flowers, and just some like wildlife grass in general. Just so the player's not always seeing rocks, stone, wood. I wanted to add some more spice into the world. And you're also going to be able to pick up these objects too. These are actual items in the game. And the important part is these aren't just tiles. These are actually objects. So they'll all have their own shadows. They'll cast and receive light. And later on, when I add wind into the game, I can make them sway in certain directions at certain speeds, however fast or slow the wind is, which would just simply be a shader that just makes it look like they're swaying in the wind. So that's going to add so much more depth in the world, and the more and more items I have, the more fun it's going to be to explore. I can also take these objects and restrict them based on the biomes. For example, forest biomes might be allowed to spawn a couple of these mushrooms. Maybe some plains biomes are allowed to spawn these mushrooms. And maybe a desert biome would have cactuses that it could spawn. So just little things like that I could add. And I wanted to start working on pathfinding this week, but I didn't get around to it. I had too many other tasks to finish. But when I do get around to pathfinding, I just wanted a simple NPC AI thing to test it out with. And so I thought, why not add a deer? It's simple enough. I can make the deer jump throughout the world, and this will be a good way to test the pathfinding with. It's crazy, just with like a couple changes you can go from deer to dog, just depending on how you angle the ear and the eye. But yeah, I think that just about wraps up this week's progress. I will see you all next Friday at 9 a.m. and hopefully on Discord as well. But get ready for next week's video, which is probably something related to decorating the world. Yeah, maybe like adding these in. Oh, and adding wind too. Oh, and making them blow in the wind. Oh yes, that I will see you then.